Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell icon so you never miss a video from Radio 1.
All right, it's Radio 1. Good morning. Welcome to the show. We do one of my most favorite segments around this time, and it's a segment that focuses on technology. Let's get into it. Hashtag Tech for Change is a segment where I focus on people in the technology space using technology for some form of social good. Now, let's be honest, right? In today's world of social media, it's an extremely cruel place. There are a lot of, it's got a lot of merits as well. But the truth is that there's a lot of things that you can't talk about, you can't address. Things will get pulled down if you say certain things. Freedom of speech online is a very tricky thing to deal with. And I've kind of, even when it's certain things, like I've had friends, for example, who have put up, content on, say, for example, something like menstruation, and that's gotten pulled down. So how do these vital issues actually get distributed on social media? And there are a lot of young Indians who actually want to talk about these things. I came across a journalist and filmmaker who turned the corner from that chapter in his life and is now part of a content platform that he set up for young Indians for stories around LGBTQIA plus issues, mental health, climate change, careers, gender inequality, sexual harassment, and so much more. Charit Jaggi is going to be joining me on the other side to discuss all of this on this little edition of Hashtag Tech for Change. All right, Charit is with me. Good to see you on Zoom, man. How are you? This is so funny how you had to put on a shirt and pants before we kind of started doing this.
Yeah, because I think that's become the norm. All of us have been working at home and it's always like there's a Zoom call and suddenly you realize, okay, it's 12 and you just need to make it on time and you just pop open your laptop and you're there. So I wasn't expecting it to be a video call, but here I am after putting on my pants and shirts.
Okay, so I love doing this segment, and this is one of my most favorite ones where we speak to people in the technology space using technology for some form of social good. Your background is a little complex, but so cool, I think, because you were a journalist and filmmaker. I don't know if you still are, but now you're a social entrepreneur, really helping a lot of youngsters across India realize their value, as well as connect meaningfully on crucial topics that are very passionate to this, community and this section of people in society. How did that switch happen for you? The platform, by the way, is called We Are Young, for everybody who's wondering. We'll get to more of that, but Charit, I'd love to hear your story.
Right. I think I was working almost like 18-hour shifts in news organizations and media channels and outlets. And all I was realizing is that, there is this barrage of content related to politics and being spoken about by people who are above 40, for politicians who are in the age brackets of, say, 60. And I just felt such a lack of representation that I felt that there has to be a media platform voicing the new voices, and which is the Gen Z and millennials who were at that time not being heard as much when we started out. And we really felt that this is the new age, man, and these voices and these stories need to be put out. And that's how I started We the Young, by seeing such a lack of representation in the mainstream media of young voices.
So when you say lack of representation, you're particularly referring to what those voices kind of talk about. And like I said a little while earlier, which was issues like climate change, issues like LGBTQIA plus, things and topics and things like that. So is that something that always appealed to you, or where did that kind of come from?
Right. So I believe that while I was going through my professional journey as a media professional, constantly I was hearing my friends talk about issues of mental health, of climate change, of democracy, of free speech, of queer rights and activism. And I was like, where the hell is this in mainstream media? Why aren't news organizations or mainstream media platforms talking about these things? And that's where the thought germinated that even if there were platforms, they were very scanty, they were very limited, and they were almost always very careful about what they put out, because these topics were so tabooed and people found it so difficult to speak about it on the internet, right? And that's the taboo and the stereotype that We the Young attempts to break. And it has been doing so with its 700 plus stories in the last 2.5 years or so. So yeah, I think that's about it.
You started off with a lot of other stories of other people. The idea, of course, has been to build almost like a I think I saw an article that said a meaningful Facebook for India, which I think is a great way to kind of put it. Social media that hits on relevant issues. So tell me, what was the first story you remember putting out on the platform? I'm sure that must have been a very, very special one. Tell me that, please.
Right. I think the first story that we put out, in fact, I very clearly remember the first story we put out was a b-boying artist from a very small, a very humble background in Delhi's Dakshin Puri area. And we met him while he was practicing his b-boying in one of the parks in Delhi, where a lot of people would come who couldn't afford dance classes, etc. They would kind of pitch in and help each other out. And he was performing over there, and we were so amazed at his skills that I was trying to I was trying to train my team and tell them that okay, let's pick up an ordinary story and let's see if we can do a video version of a Humans of Bombay or a Humans of Delhi. And we started asking him questions, and he told us about the fact that how his father was a taxi driver, that how despite the fact that there was a huge pressure on him to make two ends meet, he was determined to do dancing. In fact, to the point that he would go for b-boying battles, and unless and until he won the battle, he couldn't come back because he needed that kind of money to just fund his travel back home. So that was like the motivation for me also, that these are stories which need to be put out, like people who are doing things in our generation despite their pressures and burdens and breaking away from any barrier that prevents them from being whoever they want to be
Yeah.
and coming into their own. And that's b-boy Jin, called Vivek, who's now called b-boy Jin, and he's one of the top b-boying artists in the country right now, and he's being picked up by brands, etc. So it was something that truly I resonated with. That is the spirit of young Indians today.
Awesome, man, and so good to hear. But what I also found really cool is that ever since that first story, you've got a community of over 100,000 people, and apparently, you've also got views that have exceeded 25 million since the inception. Let's be honest, all right? Did you see it going this big or no?
Well, to be honest, the endeavor was that human stories always work, and they work in a way that is unfathomable. And the moment it started happening, and it was a slow and gradual process, I just was trusting the process that I had put in place, and I knew that this is going to be a community because it wasn't being driven by us alone. It was being driven by thousands of people whose stories have been featured on the platform. So you realize that every person who comes and shares their story on the platform is not just someone who shared their story, also become a patron of an ambassador of the brand, is aggressively consuming and sharing that content. So yeah, that's correct. Today we are a cumulative of 25 million views, and our monthly reach is over 1 million people. Yeah, so I think that is something that is going to be rewarding. That this content, which people apparently said would be boring, is
Mhm.
now being watched by so many people.
Awesome, man. My last leg of conversation, I really want to focus on how people who are listening to this can be a little bit more conscious online. So let's talk about that. All right. Charit Jaggi is the founder of We the Young. They're a beautiful little platform. Please do check them out. Charit, where's the best place to kind of check you guys out?
Instagram, please.
Okay, perfect. Do you guys have an app or something, or a website?
We have a website. You guys can surely check it out. It has a lot of support portals as well. We have a portal called Mental Health Dost, where you can find free mental health resources online. For anyone who finds therapy unaffordable, they could possibly contact people and therapists from that particular list. So a lot of such services on our website at wetheyoung.in.
Super. So, Charit, instead of asking how can we be more responsible online, you said let's build a platform that has that as its intrinsic value and morals almost, right? So when you started building We the Young 2 years ago, there are a lot of conversations which go swept under the rug, right? Conversations from people of the LGBTQIA plus community. Maybe we're talking about mental health. Maybe we're talking about absolutely anything. But for people who are online, let's just look at pretty much everyone for a second. How do we become more responsible online in what we share and what we put out, number one? But more than that, why is it extremely important to society to kind of come together and have these conversations not only on social media, but in person as well? I'd love to hear that from you.
Yeah, I think the internet makes you feel confident because perhaps you think you're anonymous. But the moment you start realizing that there is an actual person, someone actually sitting in front of a screen watching what you're saying or speaking or commenting, that's the time you realize that here is a soul with feelings and emotions and perhaps exactly similar to you, and you start becoming more and more conscious. So I think the need of the hour is really to sensitize people towards the fact that this is not being consumed by robots or people who don't have emotions. Content is being consumed, and the slightest things, we've spoken to so many young people, and the slightest things like a comment, a little word that someone says could really impact someone in a very negative way that is not anticipated by someone who's commenting at the time. So I
Yeah,
feel the
and online
sentiment.
bullying is a real thing, right? Like it's scary almost to a large extent because you have people who sit behind the keyboard and are just free flowing keyboard warriors. But the impact of that, like you can't even see it sometimes.
Right. And I think for anyone listening to this show, be it parents, be it students, be it people who are young adults, the need is really to understand the fact that anonymity doesn't mean that you can type up anything and just give a knee jerk reaction to anything and everything. You have to realize that there is someone like your friend, like your brother, your sister, your mother, who's sitting and consuming that content. Be empathetic, be kind on the internet, be sensitive towards whoever you are speaking to. And I think that's where the change can start online.
I want to say that it's been fun chatting with you, Charit. Thank you so much for your time. And here's hoping that together we can all build more socially conscious conversations, be it in person, be it online, and more power to we the young, honestly.
Thank you, Kay. Thank you so much. Likewise.
Thanks for watching. If you like this video, then subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon so you don't miss out on more content.